4 games, amazing number of goals, just 1 conceded, and some very, very impressive performances. And it might be time for some apologies. This is today's Arsenal Reaction Show. Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk, back again with you guys and girls for another episode of what is the Arsenal transfer. It's the Arsenal news, the Arsenal reaction show. I do loads of them now. I lose count. But today's show is slightly different audio-wise. The sound is apparently not good, which isn't great because I'm trying out a new travel microphone. Does it not work? Is it not great? Do I need to hold it up to my mouth to make it actually work? It's meant to be like a little travel microphone, but it might be that I have to change things to make it actually better. Oh no, your ears aren't working. Let's change. All right, let's go with this then. I can't be. It works when I hold it up apparently, but I'd rather go with this. To be honest, I think this is probably better than using the little travel microphone. So let's get rid of that. Let's get rid of that. Apparently, it's better when it's closer to my mouth, but still, it's not very good. But we'll go to this. This is better. I'll take the other microphone to Bilbao. I'll do that. And if I take the other microphone to Bilbao, hopefully things will be more sorted out. But good morning to you all. Thank you so much for tuning in. Really appreciate you listening. It is greatly appreciated you, of course, being here. And I hope you've had a really, really good week so far. And of course, I'm sure that yesterday's result would have helped with that massively. Very important victory for Arsenal. I've also just realised I've not kind of angled the camera as I usually do when I'm here. I usually get kind of a box to put. This is great viewing right now. Now I'm smashing things. This is great view. You can't even see me. Right, here we go. Laptop on the box. Better angle for me. There we go. That's miles better. This is going to be the last time you see me in this environment for at least quite some time. So do bear with me today because it's going to be an absolute awful technological show today. It's not what you're usually used to. If this is the first show you've ever tuned in for, you've tuned into the worst produced show ever on the channel. But I was trying everything to get a better microphone just so I could take it away for Bilbao, but I'm going to have to take the bigger microphone now. I'm going to have to try and squeeze that into the mini suitcase that I get. So we'll see how that goes. But let's, this is a calamity, Claire. So far, this is the worst that we've ever had at the start of a show, considering how good the game was yesterday. The fact that we've got this as the start of today's show, terrible. Absolutely terrible. Right, I just think we should just jump straight into the slides at this point, because, oh goodness me, it's going to be one of those mornings. Right, let's jump into the chat box first of all and say hello to people. I need to do something different. Paul, good morning to you, to Steve, to Matt G, to Martin, to Mike, to Blackshine, to Tiggy. We've got Jonas, we've got John, we've got Matt G, we've got John and Martin, we've got Baz, we've got Paul, we've got Carl, we've got Carrie Ann, we've got plenty more of you guys and girls as well. Freddie and Vivian, we've got a super chat already. Goodness me. Creflo, thank you so much for your kind donation. Eze's assist was reminiscent of Ozil's first assist for Arsenal away at Sunderland. 3 clean sheets in the first 4 games. Sack Arteta now. It was actually. It's a really good reference. I remember that goal like it was just away to Sunderland. Olivier Giroud on the end of it. Ozil with his left foot assists. It's a really nice parallel there. And Temi as well. Zubi freaking Dubi Doo. Indeed. We're going to talk about Zubimendi and all of the team from yesterday, and your questions and more, of course, on today's show as well. Right, let's start with the result overall. And 3 goals and a 5-star performance for Arsenal. Just brilliant, really. It was a dominant display. There's always going to be a level of unknown about playing a team with a brand new manager. You don't know what you're going to get from them. You don't know what Ange Postecoglou is going to bring. I thought that they might go into the game somewhat reserved. I thought that, a new coach coming in, he's had a couple of days to work with the players. It's never going to be like an amazing performance when you've got a manager for the first time who's had 2 days after an international break to work with the players. It's never, ever, ever, ever going to be the final product. It's just not. But I thought that they might be a little bit better than what they were. But I think that's more on Arsenal. I think Arsenal shackled Nottingham Forest. They made them look incredibly ordinary on the day, and they were so dominant, so in control, so threatening, so just overwhelming to them that they had absolutely no chance in the game really whatsoever. And that's a credit, of course, to the Arsenal team, and certainly something that the Arsenal side will be very, very pleased about, I think, as well. So, result win 3-0, 3 points on the board, and Arsenal back to the top of the table, of course, ahead of today's games on Sunday, where Liverpool are away at Burnley and Manchester City are playing Manchester United in the Manchester derby. But the lineup was a little surprising, I think. I think a lot of us were quite surprised by the fact that Mikel Merino started this game over Declan Rice. And I was going to, funnily enough, write a story on the idea of actually building on, the form of Mikel Merino by the goals that he scored for Spain and taking that into this game. And it's ironic because Arteta actually spoke about that afterwards in his press conference about how he wanted to kind of harness the emotion that Mikel Merino was kind of on. He doesn't play that role for us in this current system, but he still had a really good game, Mikel Merino. He should have scored at the beginning of the match. He had a really, really big opportunity right at the beginning of the game. Of course, you remember when the ball kind of dropped in the box and he was there to kind of, for a tap-in, really. It's a good save by Sells, but in that position, in a high-profile game, if we was, limited, if that was Anfield, we'd be talking about that chance a lot more than we end up will be. But Mikel Merino, I thought, overall was still really, really solid throughout the game. Eze started for the first time on the left. Madueke, of course, on the right. Odegaard starting with Merino in midfield. Zubimendi as a 6. And I think the back 4 was as we did expect. So, yeah, that was definitely positive as well. But there was, I want to get kind of the negative side out of the way quickly. Martin Odegaard has suffered another shoulder problem. There was kind of a moment where I think there was another set piece. The ball kind of foot drops on the edge of the box and he goes in for a challenge. I think it might even be Jurriën Timber who connects with his ankle as they're both trying to go for the ball, but he lands quite awkwardly. And it's yet another kind of shoulder moment where he's holding his shoulder. Arteta was asked after the game whether or not he felt as though that this could be a symbol that he needs a procedure to kind of fix an ongoing problem. But that wasn't the sense that Arteta had either. But it's 2 home games in a row where Odegaard ultimately has not reached the half time because he's had to come off because of that injury. And it was an already awkward forward, didn't look comfortable at all. And considering he had another shoulder injury just so recently, to have to deal with that again, which, when you look at kind of players and how they fight for and contest for balls, it's not a common occurrence that you see kind of players fall that awkwardly and being the same player. He was replaced by Ethan Nwaneri, who, again, he's 18 years old. And I preface everything I'm going to say with the fact that he's still really young and he's got great energy and he's got great purpose and he wants to get towards the byline and he wants to attack. But you could tell the difference. It was very obvious, the difference, of course, between the 2 levels of the performances, between what Odegaard was producing and then what Nwaneri is producing. He wasn't quite on the same vibe and he wasn't on the same kind of wavelength, I think, as his teammates. But Arsenal kind of played around Ethan, and there was a couple of moments where he combined really well, I think, with Madueke on the right-hand side. But mainly, that was really the only performance that, again, I was kind of like, I'm being uber critical, but I want to see kind of more from Nwaneri in these moments. And I didn't pick up on kind of, I think, what other people seem to have picked up. I didn't necessarily see it in the same way. I think and I think it's a really good comment from Jason, where Nwaneri is a ball carrier. He absolutely is. And Arsenal are kind of playing more so with the central areas, kind of one-touch movements like pass, move, diamonds, triangles, kind of these moments where you see kind of the quick touches and passes. And I think that doesn't necessarily suit Ethan's game at the moment. Ethan wants to grab the ball, run, drive at the box. And when we're playing in this style where we're quick one-touch passing and then push it to the wide area and then get it into the box, that doesn't necessarily suit. He had a good chance on the outside of the box, was struck really well and blocked. And obviously had also another chance on the outside of the box in the second half, which he absolutely skied into row Z. He wasn't bad. You know, he wasn't bad. I'm not saying it's bad. I just think, obviously, among all of the performances that we saw yesterday, you know, Buenario, I think, was overshadowed by most of, obviously, the other players on the day. But less, as I said, about kind of the drawbacks from what I saw than the positives, because there was a lot of positives to talk about. Martin Zubimendi. Did I not say, and this is all just arrogance and ego from me now, because I am going to drink the Kool-Aid of my own opinion from the summer, because I have been saying for some time to you that this man is going to transform our midfield. And the thing is that his 2 goals that he scored, we'll talk about the first one now, are not the types of goals that I've come to see from Zubimendi. He's not a player I thought would come in and produce these types of moments. He's not the player I thought would be striking the ball from outside the box. The number of goals that he scored from Real Sociedad, I think you can count on one hand. That's not his vibe. Zubimendi just takes that number 6 position to a new level. Those that said that he's not an upgrade on Thomas Partey, I've quite frankly disappeared like a Homer Simpson meme at this stage. And I don't expect them to come back anytime soon, because he is, for me, as a player, and he's showing that on the biggest stage in the toughest league. He is an astonishingly good footballer. And it's not just the goals that we saw. And it's easy to kind of get sucked into the goals itself, which was an amazing strike. And I do think was helped a little bit by the head of Murillo to take it away from Sales, of course, not to take away from the strike, which was beautifully hit. But it's everything else in his game. It's everything else. It's the passing, it's the progression, it's the breaking up of play. I think I underrated his defensive abilities, personally. I think I underrated how good he is at breaking up play and how good he is defensively. I think that was an element of his game I probably overlooked. And I was so focused in on what he will do for us kind of in an attacking sense, in a progressive sense, in a passing sense. He's just so good. And he is going to be, if Arsenal win the league this season, this man will be one of the biggest reasons why we do. And I can't wait to see more from him at all, because he's been absolutely brilliant. Viktor Gyokeres, though, I feel like he's getting better game by game. You know, it's 2 away games this season. Of course, he was quite isolated, and they're 2 really tricky places to go. Old Trafford and Anfield as your first away games, really, really tough. Really, really tough to deal with. And, you know, I am in by no means going to kind of over-analyse those performances. Was I concerned about the isolation? For sure, concerned. But these are 2 games where, coming into the side for your first few competitive matches, they're really difficult. But Viktor Gyokeres in this match, I think, showed Arsenal fans and myself and others a lot more about what he's about. Wasn't perfect, you know. There was still, you know, some touches. His touch still isn't quite sharp enough yet, particularly taking the ball kind of into feet at times. But some of his first touch passing was really good. The little touch around the side for Eze, the little flick pass from Merino, which, by the way, I know I've praised Merino and he deserved that praise, but that time where Gyökeres kind of pushed the ball in behind for Mikel Merino for him to check back and pass back to Calafiori, that's almost unforgivable. That moment there is utterly ridiculous to have thought. To get into that position and the mindset to be not to ping the ball across to Noni Madueke, who had his arms outstretched, like, play this ball early, just like Eze did, of course, for the goal that Gyökeres scored, to check back and eventually just play the ball backwards to Calafiori. I was like, oh, my head was in my hands. Like, what are you doing? Merino was great overall, but that one moment really did irk me. And I was very frustrated because it, again, showcased a lot of what Viktor was good at. The goal, obviously, is a goal that I want to see a lot more often from him, getting into those dangerous areas. But it's not so much about him. It's more about the other players around him that need to get the ball into those positions to him quicker. We moved the ball up the field quicker. Credit to Calafiori for the pass, of course. Eze, massive credit to him for the execution of the cross as well. It's nice having a player who can use both feet so well on that left-hand side. You know, we've had, for too long, we haven't had that. We haven't had somebody who can use both feet. Trossard, to be fair, is not bad of his left foot, But to this level that Eze is, it is a breath of fresh air to a degree. I do remember a pass, I think, from Trossard to Havertz with his left foot, where he kind of cut it back at speed, and Havertz kind of volleyed it in the Arsenal box at the Emirates. But beyond that, I'm struggling a little bit more with the number of examples that I can think of. But for me, Eze is going to we're going to talk about Eze specifically, so I should stick to Gyökeres. But that moment, that creation of that chance is something that we need to see a lot more frequently, a lot more regularly. And it was a good finish, of course. It was a simple finish. But the other chance that he got, where he hit the post, of course, again, on the left side, picks up the ball, drives towards the box. Didn't think he'd be getting into these situations as much as he is, but I think it's really benefiting us. Finds the pass to Noni, who we will come on to, don't you worry. And then, of course, the strike at a tight angle smashes against the post, an inch left, and it perhaps hits the post and goes in. He's just such a ruthless finisher. I spoke to him after the game, and you're going to see that conversation on Monday morning. Or you're going to read it. But he is hopefully the answer to this number 9 problem, because it's something that we've been talking about for a long time and we've needed for a long time. And he's now got 3 goals in 4 games. So pretty good. 3 goals in 2 home games. It's the away games. We've got away games coming up, not Newcastle again. I mean, the three of the toughest trips for Arsenal historically, where they've had really bad records at grounds, St James's Park, Old Trafford, Anfield, they are his first 3 league away games. I mean, that is tough to enter the league. But it shows you that if you can, get these games done, hopefully pick up another victory away at St James's Park, which we haven't done, I think, for 2 or 3 years now. I remember that Jorginho game where Odegaard scored. I think we won 2-0. Was that 22-3 or was it 3-4? It might have been 3-4. But that if he can score in that game, he would have done very, very well indeed. I would kind of kick off the campaign of how we play away from. I think that'd be the first game that we see the blue away kit potentially. Oh, we have played in red. I guess we probably will play in red at Newcastle. I'm trying to think when we're going to see that lightning bolt blue away kit that I like so much. I can't think of when. That maybe Port Vale we'll see it. I guess we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, overall, really good performance. It's best in an Arsenal shirt, no doubt about that, and very, very positive from him. Zubi then scores the 3rd, and he it was kind of like, I saw obviously the ball from Trossard is excellent to the back post, and you're like, who's going to be there? Is it going to be Mikel Merino heading the ball in? No, it's going to be Martin's. Actually, you're right. It could be Bilbao that we see the away kit used. That's a great shout. We might see the away kit for the first time on Tuesday night. Great shout. Great shout that. But yeah, Zubimendi leaping and heading, and he was so surprised, of course, about this that he kind of tapped his head like as he was running away in celebration. But again, showing kind of the roundness of his game, the elements of his game that maybe we haven't taken into account, maybe even he hasn't taken into account. But he's already improving. He's already getting better as a player for Arsenal, and it's exciting that he's in our team. But as I say, we've kind of done Zubi to death already. I think that we may have found another gem. Christian Mosquera, I mean, those who wrote him off and kind of spoke about him disparagingly, I mean, very much heads face down in the mud at this point, because Mosquera, however much he cost or how little rival fans knew about him or wanted to disparage this signing or overlook this signing, he's had to come in for arguably Europe's best young defender in William Saliba. And in 2 games, one at Anfield and obviously this one at home for the first time from the start, in front of his own crowd, first start for Arsenal, of course, he's been absolutely brilliant. Really, really, really brilliant. And a really impressive performance again. There was one moment where there was a little bit of confusion in the box, of course, with Timber, but again, he put in a really good last-ditch challenge on Callum Hudson-Odoi. There was a lovely stooping, diving header that he produced as well to clear the ball. Very calm. He's got the speed. He's got the passing calmness. There's a composure about him that is in Saliba as well, and that bodes really, really well. And it's very, very impressive to see that we found yet another young player in this position that has impressed us all so greatly. So yeah, Christian Mosquera, very, very impressive indeed, and another top performance. A little few words on Ebere Eze's first start in an Arsenal shirt. I thought he was good. I do think that we kind of now need to think about the balance between the right and the left. And I think that, we've, as a team, with Bukayo Saka and with Odegaard and with Timber, we've got kind of this pod, Ben White as well, this pod on the right-hand side that's obviously been a real weapon for Arsenal. Now we've got a player like Eze on the left. I feel as though that we need to find we need to find more balance about how we utilize the left-hand side, because we've got a player in Eze on that left who is and could be as good and as impactful as Bukayo Saka. We may have finally found someone who can be as good as Bukayo Saka on the left. And some of his skills, some of his movements, some of his runs, some of his passes, some of his ideas, were really good. There were moments where he played passes where you're like, if someone was on the same wavelength in those moments, this could have been 4, 5, 6. Because there's the chance creation that he was there. What that we saw or witnessed was, I think, on a really high level. And obviously you saw that with the assist that he created. But there's a number of times where he found some little cute passes in behind, and there was kind of anyone really reading it. Maybe Gyökeres needs to kind of link up with him a little bit more and learn those partnerships. This is the first time we've played that front three, and we're going to have more opportunities to play other front threes. We've got Saka to come back. We've got Dalman to think about. We've got, Nwaneri, of course, who could still feature. We've got Trossard and Martinelli who could still feature. For me, Eze is a transformative player for Arsenal, and it could be the player that unlocks Arsenal's left-hand side and makes it, pretty much come in line with the right. That's how good he could be for Arsenal. So very excited to see what more will come from this team and from this attack and from these players. And with Bukayo Saka out, we were worried. We were concerned. A lot was said about Noni Madueke. A lot was said about this player. I said stuff about this player. I wasn't convinced by the price. The price was the big thing for me. But clearly there was talent. We all knew, well, most of us knew there was talent there. And there was a player that was ready to be unlocked. But there was issues that a lot of people had about the timing of when the signing was done, the level of the investment in the signing, and to some degrees, some elements of Madueke's game, perhaps selfishness that has been talked about before. But he was anything but selfish and has been anything but selfish in these opening games as well. Some of the words that you've seen from some people online about this guy, frankly, there needs to be some inquiries. There needs to be some inquiries to force some apologies, because my goodness gracious me, it's a lesson in not speaking before you get the full picture. It's a lesson in not committing in such a driven way for content to speak about players as this example is right now. And it's early. It's really, really early. And there still could be loads that changes. And there's a long way to go to still justify and vindicate the investment. But as I explained so often throughout the summer transfer window, this was a priority for Arsenal. After Bukayo Saka's injury last season, which cost him 4 months of the campaign, it was evident that when we lost Saka, Arsenal's competitiveness, Arsenal's threat, Arsenal's right flank diminished in return so greatly. And it was a priority of the club to go into the window and find a player who, if we were without Bukayo Saka, could produce some much, much better performances than what we had seen from Ethan Nwaneri, of course, who's still very young and who they don't necessarily see as a right-sided player and more see as a central player. And also it was a benefit that he could play on the left as well. And we saw that, of course, a little bit, but he didn't start the season there. But as soon as Saka came off against Leeds, bang, Madueke to the right-hand side. Started him at Anfield, had a good game at Anfield. We had a good first half, and a lot of the good stuff that we did in the first half at Anfield was to do with Madueke. But this game, he looks like a brand new character. He looks like a brand new man. And Arteta's comments after the game were quite interesting, I think. We'll come on to that a little bit later on. We talk about Arteta. But obviously there was a lot of talk about Madueke, a lot of talk about whether or not he was the right signing for Arsenal, about whether we'd spent too much on him, about how we went so quickly for him, and about how maybe we missed out on other players in the market. But from the little that we've seen, and we can only go off the little that we have seen, it's looking good, Brev. That's what I would say to that. He's so skillful, so confident. He's got more variety in his game than I think a lot of people perhaps perceived. I think we all thought, maybe not all of us, I think the majority of us probably thought that and that comes from, seeing comments on the channel. It seems from just conversing with fans, conversing with you all, the Discord server, that we would primarily see a player when he was on the right that would get the ball, try and beat his man, cut left onto his left foot and fire a cross or a shot into the box or play kind of a pass out to Odegaard or to Rice or whoever. I thought that's what we would see mainly, right? And I think that most of us felt that way from all of the exposure I've had to comments and conversations. I didn't think that we would see, as much as we did in this game, the ability that he has to drive like Saka does to the touchline and use his right foot. His right foot is so much better than I thought it was. His right foot's really good. And some of his kind of like dinked crosses and chipped crosses, they're really well executed. And I think actually deserved a lot better in terms of outcome than what ultimately we saw. He also took corners from the right-hand side of his left foot, and his corners were good. Eze's corners were good. We look threatening beyond having Declan Rice on the field. We don't need Declan Rice to have a good corner delivery. We've got a lot of players who can put some really dangerous crosses into the box. And that's very, very exciting as well, because we know how threatening we can be from those. But it was his link up. It was the fact he looks energized. He looks free. He looks like a new player. He just looks like he has just shaken off all of the baggage that he had at Chelsea, all of the complaints from Chelsea fans. And Chelsea fans, I saw some of the tweets online yesterday saying Arsenal's best players are always our garbage. And it's like, yeah, I saw Tim Stillman's reply to some of those tweets. And it's like, Chelsea fans, you're nearly getting it. You nearly get it. You're nearly there. You nearly understand what you're saying. Problem is the players aren't the problem. It's Chelsea that are the problem. And all that Arsenal are doing is unleashing these players. Havertz has got better since joining Arsenal. Madueke has got better since joining Arsenal. I think we've seen, and Jorginho won some great things there, but I still think at a latter stage of Jorginho's career, we saw some really positive outcomes from his time with the club. Sterling. But Havertz, Madueke, and Jorginho have been three really good signings so far. And we've only got a small sample size at the moment, Madueke, but it's perhaps time for some early apologies already. And we'll see how indeed he continues. But he's been written off by far, far, far too many people. Far too many people too soon. So let's wait and see what happens. I said that I'd talk to you about what Mikel Arteta said afterwards, because there was some interesting stuff that we did hear from the manager in the post-match press conference that you can, of course, go and read the full transcript of on the Football.London website. He snapped back a little bit at my question. If you haven't watched back the video, we'll talk about that as well. But talking specifically, you can read the full thing, of course, as I said, on the Football.London website, so I won't read the whole thing to you. But James Benge asked Mikel about Madueke, and he said, you mentioned Noni earlier. Could you reflect on what he has brought to the squad that's a bit different? It seems like when he gets the ball, he just goes. And Arteta said, yeah, a lot of courage. That's how I describe it. Obviously, a lot of quality, but a lot of courage. We were about to sign him, and there was that reaction around him. I spoke to him. He was like, go for it. I can't wait to put that shirt on and play for you guys. I said, well, let's bring him. If I was convinced before, I'm more convinced now that he's going to do it. And yeah, I think he has such power, such a capacity to repeat efforts, because to be able to do that physically, you have to be a different specimen. And he's certainly that. But he's very skillful, very unpredictable, so willing to learn. And he brings joy. I look at him and he's always smiling. He's always trying things. He gets one wrong, he goes again. And that's what I love about the creative players, because you need that to be successful. Now, I want to go back to Arteta's press conference from Friday very quickly, because the comments that he made about Madueke were very interesting. Let's wait and see if I can find them on the fly. So Yeah, there was just one on Madueke. You spoke about him a bit earlier, but obviously when it emerged he was going to join Arsenal, this was from Phil Duncan of PA. The question was asked. There was a bit of backlash amongst the fans and all that sort of stuff. I just wanted to get your opinion on how impressive he's been in the sense that he's been able to block that out and score for England. He's started to go across. How impressive mentally has that been? He says, well, I can talk about what I've seen and what I've experienced. I think the welcoming that our supporters gave Noni was incredible. So I don't know other ways that people communicated the disagreement with that, but our supporters, they've been exceptional, and rightly so, because he's an unbelievable player. And like it's not lost on us, right? Like there was conversations in the press room afterwards. I'll say this, that what he said about Madueke on Friday, that he said he didn't know, like about the kind of communications, that he didn't know you know he said, I don't know other ways that people communicated the disagreement with that. But after the game yesterday, he said we were about to sign him and there was a lot of that reaction around him. Like he said one thing on Friday and then another thing on Saturday, and it just like that didn't. It's great to say what he said on Saturday. That should have been the line all the time. Like that should have been what was being said all the time. It's frustrating being in the room when you hear a question asked, like, and obviously he says one thing one day and then another thing another day. We know what he's like. It's water off a duck's back for me most of the time. Like I get that he's very well media trained, and sometimes he'll give you something, and another day he'll give a different answer to the same question. I get that. But it was just the time of how close these two examples were together that I found so hilarious. That in one moment he talks about him, says, we don't know what that we don't know about that. I don't know how that was communicated. And then the next day, that reaction. You know, I get why fans get frustrated. I empathize with fans' frustrations, you know, around kind of the inconsistency. That's the word, isn't it? It's the inconsistency around the answers. And you know what's also funny is that in the press conference yesterday, I said, I said, Arteta sometimes snaps back at some of my questions, but not usually. And he said, I asked him yesterday, I said, you talked before about the game, about the perception of his team, how they approached Liverpool game. You remember back to that, the start of Friday's press conference, where he was asked about Marino, and out of nowhere he said, you know, that was the narrative, the attacking. He said, Mikel has this ability. Yeah, I heard some comments after Liverpool saying we play with three midfielders, defensive midfielders. I think it was the narrative. No, when Mikel has a hat trick and an attacking midfielder, I don't know if he's the last midfielder to score 3 goals. So very interesting to learn what perception is, especially when you lose a football match, how important it is to analyse and understand your players' quality in order to make decisions that are based on what you understand daily, which is very clear as well. So I said to him in the presser yesterday, you talked before the game about the perception of your sides, how they approach the Liverpool game. Obviously, you talk about that game and this game, two opposite results. Do you see a difference at all in how you approach both games and the intent to win both games? Which I thought was like a slam dunk for him. You know, a slam dunk. You've won the game. You want to talk about the positives. You want to talk about the good things. It was a slam dunk to like say, yeah, you know, we approach the games in the same way. And as Arne Slot said, you know, that game was a chaotic fixture at Anfield, but we went in with the intention of winning that game. No doubt about it. And you see that today with how we performed. And he snaps back at me and said, no, they're the same. Hopefully you were in the preparation for the game in my meetings. I was like, I've given you like a humdinger of an opportunity to be like, stick it to those that said, like, you know, around the Liverpool game and the perception. I just found it very funny. But it's one of those things, you know, you can't always just accept that it's always going to be that way. So it's funny. It is funny. It's one of those. I think it's one going forwards where, you know, we've the last kind of weeks there's been a lot of kind of difficult questions. I think difficult questions come from me, obviously, after the Liverpool game, ask him about being too conservative, in my opinion, and getting his thoughts on that. Ask him about like the idea of players and how you manage them, kind of peaks and troughs and rise and falls and overcoaching as well. I don't know if it was based off of the two questions that I asked previous to this one, but it was a proper like snapback. And I was like, wow, okay. So we'll see how he's like. Of course, on Monday, we've got a press conference in Bilbao. I'm flying to Bilbao tonight. I did go out to Arteta at the end of the press conference because he made a kind of quip at the end of the presser about Bilbao and about Spain. Let me see if I can find you the exact quote from the end of the press conference where he says it. He said, there are things that we can have to get better at and be able to score even more and be more dominant in certain phases of the game and go game by game. And I'm prepared to win in Bilbao, which is going to be incredible. I hope you all go because it's one of the best places to go. I'm also from Spain. That's where I'm from. I think you're going to enjoy it, guys. An incredible stadium and atmosphere to play football. And at the end of the presser, I went up and said, have you got any recommendations for Bilbao? And he said, no. It's like, anywhere you go. Anywhere you go is great. I've been to Bilbao before. It's a brilliant city, and I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a great trip. And let's see if he's in a good mood on Monday's press conference. So it's one of those. Lloyd says, Tom, you forgot about Kai and Jesus. What did I forget about them two? I don't know what I forgot about those two. Ollie says, no matter how Arteta responds, you will always make a meal of him, and others too will take and slander him. Come on, Tom, he's our manager. Chill out. Ollie, have you not been like watching the show? I can't win. One minute I'm criticised being too positive. Next minute I'm criticised for trying to be too critical. I can't win, people. It is the way that it goes. But you can win in life, in the digital world, by protecting yourself with the best VPN on the planet. And that, of course, is, without a doubt, NordVPN. If you go to nordvpn.com/Gooner, you can get yourself a significant discount off a 1 or a 2 year plan of what is, without a doubt, in my view, the best VPN platform service that you can get your hands on. If you go with that 2 year deal, you can get that 4 months extra thrown in free on top of that too. VPNs are an absolute necessity because they give you that digital protection that you need if you're using a public Wi-Fi service. I know when I'm going to be hopping over, of course, to Bilbao this weekend, I can digitally hop back to the UK to be able to be on a UK IP address service, which is just, it's so valuable to have VPNs in this day and age, and protection that it gives you, the superpower to change your location, all of those things are really important. So I recommend that if you are going to get involved, use Nord, use that code VPN, nordvpn.com/Gooner. Go over there. Link is in the description as always. And thank you again to Nord for supporting us over here. Right, let's go to part 2. Your questions and more right after this. Right, this is part 2 of today's show. We're going to be jumping into the chat box, tackling some of your questions, some of your thoughts, feelings about the game as well. We've been going for 38 minutes. I guess these kind of ones do go on a little bit longer, don't they? When it's a positive, even when it's a negative performance, sometimes they go on a little bit better, a little bit longer. But we're going to go into the chat box now. We're going to tackle some of your comments. If you've got any that you'd like to throw in, use a capital Q. It really does help us out here. So, drop them into the chat and I'll do my best to answer as many of them as possible. Let's scroll up, shall we? And try and find some of these. Natalie says, who do you think is going to play on Tuesday? Many chances or not? I think that we'll see a strong team, to be fair. I still think we'll play a strong side in the game. I think that, you want to get off to a good pace. You want to go into the Man City game with momentum. And I think he's rested Declan Rice. I think Declan Rice, of course, will start this game. I think Zubimendi will still start this game. I think Eze will start. Gyökeres will start. We might see a Trossard or a Martinelli, potentially. It might be Eze plays instead of Odegaard. In the 10, that might be something that we see, potentially. So that's an option. Will we see Saliba back? Potentially. Arteta said after the game that he came up to him at the end of the training session and said, that he hadn't had a chance to, he didn't feel like he was in with a chance of playing, and he needed a few more days after the session. So they took that decision. I did see Norgard after the game. He looks okay. He's trained, but he just wasn't in the squad. I guess there wasn't space. We've got this issue with space now as well. We can't fit everyone into the squad. the matchday squad, we can't. But maybe we'll see Norgard get a chance to play on Tuesday night as well. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. Will Kepa play? I don't think so. But could Kepa play? He might play against, but he will play against Port Vale, certainly. But could he get his first start in the Champions League? We've seen, clubs like Man City have second choice goalkeepers in the Champions League and first choice in the Premier League. Will we see Kepa in that game? Leinstürken says, I know Liverpool haven't played yet, but we have had the toughest start in the league and we are top of the table after 4 games. Lost our captain early in 2 of them and lost Saka and lost Saliba and lost Havertz. And look, if Arsenal can come through City and Newcastle with 6 points, if they can come out of the first 6 games with 15 points, we will be in a vastly, very, 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 very good position with the games that we've already had. Away to United, away to Liverpool, away to Newcastle, home to City, home to Forest, very good side last season, as well. And they'll take points off teams this campaign. Leeds, I'm sure, will as well. But to get potentially 15 points from 18 in the first 6 games, that would be a real statement. A real statement, I think, to potentially show to the likes of Liverpool what we are capable of. Auden says, following up on my question yesterday, if Noni keeps playing like this, do you think he's worth every cent back? Oh, without doubt. I don't think that goes without saying, mate. Yeah, certainly. Connie says, do you think Odegaard still has an issue with his ankle or his shoulder? I mean, again, we don't really know. We have to wait and see. But I hope it's just what Arteta said and it's not serious. He just couldn't continue the game and struggled with the pain. Donny Dan says, did you see the interview with Madueke and Eze? They were compared to Robben and Ribery. I did see that, yeah. I think that was Alex's tweet, was it not? From the Different Knock, I think it was. I think very much tongue-in-cheek, but, if we can start talking about our players in these kind of terms, then love that. Keep that on. Obviously, they're not that level yet, but nowhere near that level yet. But it'd be great if we could reach something like that. I mean, Eze and Saka have got a great chance of potentially getting to kind of that level for Arsenal, definitely. Did I enjoy the breakfast? Yes. If you've not watched the Matchday the vlog that I did on my Instagram page at Tom Canton Media on Instagram, you can go and see that breakfast in all of its glory and a little cameo from Mr. Charles Watts as well. Paul says, how different was this game where we scored 3 from the Leeds game and 5? So the difference between the Leeds game and this game, I think, was particularly that we had more control. I think in the Leeds game, there were times in that fixture where Leeds kind of gained a little bit of threat. They looked a bit more threatening on the break, and I think we lost some control. I don't think we ever lost any control in this game. I think we completely restricted Forest entirely. They had very little. I mean, how many shots did they have? I think I remember David Ryan making a couple of collections. Arsenal, Forest. Let me see what the stats were from the game. They had 5 shots, 1 on target to our 16, 5 on target. I don't really remember them having 5 shots. Maybe they were kind of headers from corners and some speculative efforts, but we were just so dominant. I don't think the possession actually reflects how dominant we were. It says 55 to 45. It felt like a lot more than that. And Forest had a lot of passes in the game. 409 passes to Arsenal's 478. I felt like the game felt very different to that. When they were in possession, I didn't feel like we were under threat. We turned the ball over so quickly, and we just, whenever they got anywhere near our goal, we were so dangerous at taking kind of the ball back and transitioning quickly. It was very impressive. Soup says, we showed them that we could be unpredictable in attack while being solid at the back. I saw it says Tom copying Laura Kirk with the Matchday vlogs. I mean, I don't think a Matchday vlog is like I don't know if Laura invented it. They're very good. You should go and watch them. But obviously, I'm doing it from the perspective of covering the games home and away from kind of a media point of view. So obviously, there's a difference there. But I'm more than happy to follow in Laura's footsteps. She's doing great work. You should check out her what's the merchandise series called? What's it called? What's Laura's merchandise series? It's got a special name. What is it? Tell me. I need to know what it is. Someone will tell me. Someone will know what it is called. Game says, Tom, seeing that Odegaard fall looks bad, but I'm just thinking, isn't it natural to put your hand down first to lessen the impact, like he fell and somehow couldn't put his hand down and made it worse? Yeah. It's just an unfortunate moment for him, 2 home games in a row. But I don't think there's any analysis that needs to be done, around that. It's just an unfortunate moment ultimately as well. Toby says, Berto robbed Valencia with that Mosquera deal. 30 million is a ridiculous price. Lil Techie says, Tom, does Saka have the ability to play at 10? Because I'm really swayed with Noni right now, and Saka has to do that. I don't think we do that. I think we utilise Eze as a 10 at times, and we use Saka and Noni Madueke as wingers. And you could potentially look at using them on either flank. Saka on the left, it's something I've wanted to see a little bit. I've wanted to see Saka on the left a little bit. So maybe that is something that happens. Maybe it is something that we see. I would quite like to see Saka on the left. I think it's something that we could potentially really try, So when he comes back, it's something to ask Mikel about, if he's not still angry at me. Ogun Sola says, Tom, what will your lineup be like? We kind of covered that earlier. A few changes, but not too many. Football Win says, Tom, you'll find that he had games like this at Chelsea, but they all eventually complained because of his lack of end product after a large sample of games. Well, it didn't look like that yesterday. Obviously, his end product was really good. His crosses were really good. His 1-2s were really good. He set up some really dangerous situations. So I actually don't think it was his end product at all at Chelsea. I actually think it was a lack of finishing at Chelsea. There were so many chances I watched when I did some deeper dives into Madueke. The biggest issue with Madueke at Chelsea was that he just didn't have the players around him to finish the chances that he was creating. And he's definitely got that more so at Arsenal. So that's a key one. It's tongue-in-cheek, the angry comment. Don't worry. Don't take everything I say so seriously. Ryan says, Tom, the more I watch Mosquera, the more I think that he would make a great destroyer, which we kind of lack. What do you think? I think that he's not going to be a midfielder, but I think that he's definitely a great depth option for us, in those areas. A really, really good depth option for Arsenal. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm really looking forward to seeing what he can bring in those positions. Let's scroll back up, because I know there's quite a few questions that I would have missed. Ian says, who cares what he says in press conferences? Best replies to many doubts and inconsistent convos are best given in the field. That's how sports work. These are not policy-making conversations. Again, I think you may be taking it a little bit too seriously the kind of tongue-in-cheek chats we're having about the pressers. Auden says, I was talking about this at a wedding yesterday before the Arsenal game. How much would prime Rooney or Henry be in today's market? I mean, obviously a lot. A lot is a really broad answer, but a lot. I'm talking high echelons of the tens of millions. Who do I prefer? Odegaard, comfortably. I prefer starting over Winner at the moment. I don't think it's even a question for me. Nkapie could get a chance to play on Tuesday. Yeah, fair question. Would very much like to see Nkapie play. Jason said he'd like to see Ben White play at Noni. By the way, though, Timber was, again, we haven't talked about Timber at all. His technical ability is just astonishingly good. Timber's ability is astonishingly good. I've never seen a defender. I'm trying to think of a defender other than like maybe Trent Alexander-Arnold, who's, to be fair, he's more of a midfielder player in defence. But I'm trying to think of a defender that I've been so impressed by their close ball control and dribbling, as well as their defensive security. He's so good. He's so good. Like, he is on track to become one of the world's best fullbacks. With that, no doubts about that, where his ability is going to take him. And I'm so convinced, had he have been fit in that 23-4 season instead of us losing him for the entire campaign, I think he would have been the difference. There's no way we don't get at least 2-3 more points with Timber available for that whole season. And I think we probably would have won the league with him available. But what a player. What a wonderful footballer he is. He is so good. And he's a funny guy as well. Some of the interviews, the couple of interviews I've done with him, he's a good lad as well. So it's all the love in the world for Timber. Certainly. So Nicholas says, Tom, have you talked to any of the players about the ball this year? I haven't really heard anything about it. The only time that the ball was ever mentioned was to David Raya in that kind of annoying rage baity moment that got twisted and turned into something it wasn't after the free kick. He's really the only player that's talked about it. I haven't heard anyone really talking about the ball. There's a bit of a stigma around asking anyone associated with Arsenal about the football, because obviously what happened in the Man United game or whatever it was, that kind of got Arteta in a bit of not hot water, but it became a bit of a stick to beat Arteta with, all the players of Arsenal with, because of those comments when it was actually a question he was asked. He didn't bring it up. He was asked about that. Although, did he bring it up? He definitely. I think he might have mentioned it in a comment and then was asked again about it in the Carabao Cup presser. He might have brought it up, but I can't remember it exactly. But I mean, yeah, the ball stuff it's become a bit of a meme, for Arsenal. So I think as much as they can avoid talking about the ball, the better. Jonas says, Tom, do you think William Saliba will walk straight into the 11 considering Mosquera's performances? Yes. Yes, he does. William Saliba walked straight back into this team. Mosquera is, there was a moment yesterday where he kind of had a little bit of confusion with Timber. He's not right on the same wavelength against Man City at home. Saliba starts. But what's great is that if Arsenal are winning and Man City look like they're, gaining back momentum, we can go to a back five. We can go with, Hincapié left wing back, and he absolutely could play left wing back. Gabriel, Saliba, Mosquera, Ben White or Timber at right wing back, or even Saka at right wing back. We've got options. We've got a lot of Mosquera on the right side, who's also featured at right back. You could easily play with that as a back five. So, and Lewis Skelly, Connie, he came on yesterday, obviously, for Calafiori. But he is a very interesting player for this season with after signing Hincapié. Because you invest a lot of money, and we are expected to pay that £45 million for him, for a player, obviously. So there is a chance that maybe we see Lewis Skelly as a midfielder. Well, I think he'll absolutely play against Port Vale. Where he plays is another question mark. And maybe that's another question that Arteta needs to be asked as well about, you brought in Hincapié, a player who can play, multiple positions. But it also asks questions about Lewis Skelly and where he could end up playing in the future. But we haven't actually got evidence that he's going to get dropped because he came on against Forest yesterday at left back. So that I imagine would be the response from Mikel on that front. Ade says Pep was first to bring up the ball issue, and then Arteta was asked the next match and got pinned with the crime. Anas says, Tom, Arsenal are giving 16% chance to win the Champions League this season, despite PSG who won it previously. But do you think Arsenal are really favourites? No, Arsenal aren't favourites to win. PSG are going to be favourites. They're the champions. Liverpool, I think, will be next favourites of the Premier League winners. I think you've got other teams in there as well. Real Madrid are still going to be considered that. Bayern Munich look exceptional this season. Arsenal are among, I think, the top 5 clubs in Europe right now, but there's no doubt that PSG and Liverpool, I think, are above Arsenal in the standings to win it as potential favourites at the moment. The benefit that PSG got is that they play it in France. With all due respect to Liga, they're the dominant force in France. So they can constantly rest players. They've usually wrapped up the league by the knockout stages, the latter knockout stages like they did last time. Their injury record as a result of that is usually a lot better because they're not playing as intense fixtures. And I know this comes across like slamming Liga. I like Liga. I like the physicality of the league. I like a lot of the players that are in the league. I love the coaching and the development of the players. And it leads, it's no surprise that France have one of the best national teams in the world, but it's also no surprise that the majority of the players in the French national team don't play in France. And as a result, PSG have a lot of benefits from being the most dominant force by a long, long way in Liga. So, that also gives them an advantage in the Champions League. And that's one of the reasons why they won it and had I don't think, any injuries when we played them. But they don't have Donnarumma anymore. And it will be interesting to see if Donnarumma now starts. By the way, speaking of managers who answer questions in press conferences in funny ways, did you see Guardiola's comments about why he signed Donnarumma? And he was like, so tall. So tall. He's huge. And then he winked, which was a bit strange. But did you know that James Trafford's taller than Donnarumma? It's a little known fact. Did you know that? James Trafford is actually taller than Donnarumma. Donnarumma's 6'5". James Trafford's 6'6". So it's funny that, isn't it? The justification he gave for signing Donnarumma is that so tall. He's so tall, so huge. But he's smaller than the guy that you already signed. So that's quite funny. Yeah, and I think a lot of people didn't know that. And that's quite surprising. But yeah, go check it. Wikipedia their heights. You can see that James Trafford is taller than Donnarumma. Bet you didn't know that. Yeah, why did he wink there? It was really uncomfortable. It wasn't a nice moment. Joe says, Tom, how are we looking for that Chelsea 15 goals conceded? Do you think we can beat that? Well, we're 1 goal in 4 games. So 38 divided by 4 is 9.5 times by 1. So we're on course to concede less than 10 goals across a 38-game season at the moment. So at the moment, pretty good. Do I think we can beat it? Oh, I tell you, it's going to be very hard. Very, very hard to beat that record. But if you do beat that record, I think you're winning the league. I don't think there's any doubt about that. I think if you can beat that record, you're winning the league. To concede fewer than 15 goals would be absolutely incredible. Stefan says, what I love about our defenders now is that they're all aggressive, physical, and I don't get turned easily, which forwards hate. Absolutely. Ryan says, but he is 6'6" and still good with the ball at his feet. It's mad that they went and signed Donnarumma, having just signed James Trafford. I know that Ederson's left, but I think the fact that they've signed James Trafford back and then gone and signed arguably one of the world's best keepers, it undermines that signing of Trafford. I mean, how James Trafford must feel is nuts. And Jason, you're right. The record is ridiculous. Like the record that Chelsea have of only conceding 15 goals in an entire league season is madness. Absolute mad. It is up there with like the Invincibles in terms of levels of achievement. That it is an astounding. And Arteta, I imagine, would love to claim that as well. I'm sure he would. It would be another. It's the best in the history of the football club. Like it'd be one of those moments, wouldn't it? So yeah, it would be great if we did that. But it's a long way to go. 1 goal in 4 games, really tough games. Great, but there's a lot of football still to happen. You need a lot of luck as well to go your way too. So let's not count our chickens before they've hatched. Mark says, hey, can you see Cesc returning to Arsenal as assistant coach? No, I can't. I can see him coming to Arsenal one day as maybe a manager in the future, but not as assistant coach. No. Iron says, that is how big teams go about their business. James Trafford had some iffy moments. Boom, they signed Donnarumma. Yeah, I get that, but I just... there's moments, I think, particularly with kind of goalkeepers, but also you have to think about what it does to your team. Like, from an Arsenal perspective, a lot of people complained about the Madueke signing. I thought that was a bit of a ruthless bit of business. 50 plus million quid on a player that is being brought in to be a number 2 to Saka, but can play on the left as well. That's a ruthless bit of business that no one really liked, and it's paying off. Obviously, now with Saka out, Madueke there to fill in that gap. Eze, ruthlessly going out and just getting that deal done in 48 hours, brilliant. Gyökeres, miss out on Šeško, don't pay the 90 million euros they want, ruthlessly go and get Gyökeres and get it done in about 3 and a bit weeks. Happy days. So, it's the Raya Ramsdale stuff. Exactly, Jason. Ruthless. And Arteta was ruthless about that. The club were ruthless in that decision, and it wasn't a decision that was very popular. And he did get hammered. He did get hammered for that decision. I think completely unfairly. David Raya is better. He has been better. He is going to be. He was always going to be better. I like Ramsdale. I think he's a good goalkeeper. I think he deserves to be at a Champions League level club. Personally, I think he is that good, but he's not as good as a world-class keeper that I think David Raya. David Raya is a world-class goalkeeper. There is no doubt. 2 back-to-back Premier League Golden Gloves. Some of the saves that he produces have been astonishing in games. It's not perfect. No player's perfect. He does make errors. Some of the best keepers in the world, Alisson and Ederson, both made absolute howlers at points, but they're both world-class goalkeepers. David Raya is among the world-class goalkeepers around. There is no doubt in my mind about that. So, yeah, very, very well put, Jason. Mikey says, funny how quickly narratives change with a bit of evidence. You're telling me, Mikey. You're telling me, mate. Greenweather says, Tom, after 3 to 4 games, do you see that we are right to sign Gyökeres and not Šeško? The problem with that question is that he's gone Man United. The problem with the Šeško question is that I don't think we'll ever truly know. We'll know if we were right to sign Gyökeres, because that will come based upon his performances. But I don't think we'll ever truly know about Šeško, because ultimately he's gone to a place where I don't rate the way in which they manage, coach, develop, improve their players or get the most from their players. So I don't think we're going to see what Šeško could have become at Man United. We might do, but I don't think we'll see that. I don't think we'll see that with them. So yeah, I struggle. I struggle to see how we'll ever get an answer to that question. You'll get people certainly that try. If Gyökeres has a great season, it'll be like, look, we were so right to snub Šeško, I think Arteta's critics could probably have a bash at him about wanting Šeško if he doesn't have a great season. But as I said before, I think it's, didn't Rasmus Højlund just go and score a great goal for Napoli yesterday? I think he went it's that. Like, Rasmus Højlund was a talented young player, went to the wrong club. If you're a young player and if you want to raise your profile right now, you want to improve, you want to develop, you want to get better, there are few worse top clubs to go to than Man United to go and do that at the moment, in my honest opinion. So I don't think we'll ever really get a legitimate answer from that question. I think Šeško would have done well at Arsenal, as good as maybe in the future with his age, potentially even better than Gyökeres. Who knows? But we'll never know. We will never know. Ryan says, look at Anthony. Anthony had a very decent season last year, I think, with Real Betis while he was there. He was very emotional in the summer joining Betis again. I think he's injured at the moment, so he's not playing. But last season, Real Betis got to the Conference League final. He scored 4 goals and got 3 assists in 9 games, getting to the final with Betis. Great return, 7 goal contribution in 9 games. La Liga, he was, as I said, he got injured, which obviously was a big blow, and I think he's still injured now at the end of that season. But still got, I think, 5 goals. Yeah, 5 goals, a couple of assists, 7 goal contributions. Considering where you'd come from, the plight that he was in. So there's some really good ones. Wissers suffered a knee injury, did he? Obviously, Arsenal will be playing Newcastle very soon, but Voltemada did get his first goal for Newcastle as well. And he said that he won't be able to play this weekend. He has a knee injury, but I don't know any more than that. We only saw him for the first time yesterday. So, yeah, a knee injury, it seems. Don't know how long he's going to be out for, but he could be back for Arsenal. Who knows? Chido Martin made a big mistake. Absolutely, I agree with you. 100% made a terrible mistake going there. Serkan says, I think Cesk's ideas about bringing more freedom to players needs more development before he can manage a big club like Arsenal. I would love to see it, but he needs time to mature. Absolutely. It's all well and good at having an attacking philosophy and like a really free attacking, flowing football style. But if you're vulnerable defensively, you'll get found out and you won't go anywhere for a sustained period of time, and you won't get that sustainable edge to compete constantly, like ultimately Arsenal do. And I know that we've lacked the trophies, and I don't want to go into a whole debate about that. But I'd much rather that we were a stable, competitive club that were in the shout, and we're always now in a position to compete for every single competition that we enter as a result. And the squad that we've got is good enough to win them as well. So let's see if we can. Right, that's going to bring us to the end of today's show. Thank you so much, as always, for tuning in and listening. I really appreciate your time. Tomorrow's show will come to you live from Bilbao in the morning. Got a flight later on today. Ahead of course, 3 days in the Basque Country, and of course, an opportunity to a stadium that I have wanted to go to for a very long time. I've been there before. I've not been inside it. I've got an Athletic Club shirt with Nico Williams on the back, and now I didn't buy a fridge magnet. They better have a fridge magnet. That's all I'm saying. The fridge magnet tour will continue. It also gives a great chance to do a bit of a vlog as well of the city and, of course, the experience of being in Bilbao. So I'll try and get you some behind-the-scenes stuff as well of what it's like to cover Arsenal in the Champions League away from home over in Bilbao. But if you want to watch the matchday vlog from yesterday's game, that is also available on my Instagram at Tom Canton Media. You can find me over there. But San Mamés is a stadium I have wanted to go and watch a game at for a very long time. So I'm very excited about the atmosphere. Is incredible. And they're a very good team. I know we beat them in pre-season, but playing there in the Champions League is a very different kettle of fish. So let's see what is in order for Arsenal. Thank you for listening. Enjoy yourselves this Sunday. Hopefully, Man United can do Arsenal a favour and beat Man City, and they can be enduring a 3rd defeat of the season already. But stay safe, stay well, stay happy and respectful. And as always, up the Arsenal.